This is one of the all-time epic home machine shop hacks. It may not look like much, but it solves such a persistent problem. It costs you nothing because you make it from scrap, and if you take your time, you can build it in under 20 minutes, and you don't need any special tools. Okay, so what is it? It's a cutting fluid dispenser, which may not look like much, I know, like sawn off can with a bit of cutting fluid in it, big deal. But its big trick is that when you knock it over, when, not if, when you knock it over, inevitably, it doesn't spill. Like, it just doesn't spill. So it's spill proof, and that's the persistent problem that this solves. It is freaking epic. Not only that, it's good for your head, right? Because going into your fat cave is a little bit like Superman going into the fortress of frickin' solitude, right? It's a place to get your head right when the rest of the world turns 100% kryptonite. So these are really clever things. You feel good about doing it. It's the cake of isolation and mental health regeneration iced with success. Now, if you're not familiar with cutting lubricant, there's 100 different kinds of it, but lubricant and coolant are different things. You see coolant all the time in CNC workshops where they use really high-speed cutters and they inject heaps of coolant into the job, and that is mainly temperature control. There's a bit of lubrication in that, but this is mainly lubricant. And what lubrication does is it reduces tool pressure. So it's all about prolonging tool life, but it really helps you in situations where you're using machines in the home shop where perhaps you're operating them in marginal power. Like, they're giving you everything they've got, and maybe it's not enough to drive, I don't know, dirty big hole saw or something like that. In that situation, lubrication can really help. Most machinists have this kind of thing close by because plenty of machining operations like parting off on a lathe, for example, are extremely unamenable to being done dry, and it often ends so badly. So these things are perched on machines or around machines or near machines, and they're super susceptible to just being knocked like that, and that's expensive and messy, and if you do this, it never happens again. This video is possible because of my two enduring side hustles, which are A, I get new cars cheap for people just like you. Mainstream cars for mainstream Australians. And that means we do all of the negotiation and present you with the best price, and you don't have to go face to face with a car salesman, which frankly, most people do not enjoy for obvious reasons. There's no obligation either, and most people save thousands, so yay. The other thing, B, which I do, is home solar. And the problem with default home solar in Australia, as I see it, is cheap components and cowboy installers putting systems together that don't really suit the person who's buying them. And that means they don't last very long, they're not site optimized, and they don't deliver the kind of performance you want them to deliver. I've got a really good team of specialist solar system designers with integrated installation, and they only use quality components that last a long time. And if there is a problem, you get local support. You're not talking to a chatbot in China. So in both of those cases, the new car case and the solar case, I will put links down there in the description. There's no obligation. Thanks for listening to the promo. I know it's onerous and peripheral to the central overarching theme of the video. And now back to spill-proofing yo shed, dude. In order for this to work, the only thing you need to go on the hunt for is the right donor bottle, okay? And when I saw this, I did a report on these dudes the other day, but when I saw this bottle, I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to use this for when it's empty, because it's just Goldilocks for this. It needs to be two things, dude. It needs to be aluminium because it's dead easy to work. You look at it the wrong way and it falls into line. It's kind of the exact opposite of tungsten carbide or 4140 or high-speed steel or something of that nature. It's perfect if you're an incipient metal worker. And the bottle needs to have a narrow spout, because the narrow spout is absolutely the key to spill-proofing the contents, right? That's what makes the magic happen. If you're a regular viewer, you will know that I did a report on Nulon's products the other day, and incidentally, there's still time to get 35% off at Auto One. I'll put links in the description, plus a link to the extra 10% off you can get using the code in the description, but bear in mind this discount only applies until November the 23rd. So this bottle really is the premium aluminium component, definitely too good to put in the garbage, and also too good to put in the recycling, because recycling is at least imperfect, like one of the least palatable options, and at best it's just bullshit. Much better off getting something that's had a lot of time and energy embodied into it and reapplying it elsewhere in your life with a few sundry modifications if necessary. And that's exactly what this story is about. So the first thing you got to do is just pick a finished height for the container that makes it easy enough to withdraw the brush. That's the only critical dimension in this project, if you can even call it that. What you see me doing now is marking it all out with a height gauge, which is kind of a neat tool for this kind of application. I'm also marking out where the top gets lopped off and allowing for about 25 millimeters on the top half of the body for the press fit when I invert the top and press it back into the body in just a sec. But whatever else you do, do not rush out and buy some sort of expensive height gauge. There's no need for that kind of excess, dude. Channel your inner tight ass and ghetto up a platform at the right height, and then just rest a scriber on top and rotate the bottle. Job's done. Or you can just use a piece of copy paper like this script that I no longer need. This is another really neat hack for marking out anything round. Any piece of pipe, tube, bottle you need to cut in half, whatever, copy paper is your friend, because it will give you a nice square reference line, dead simple, in just a matter of seconds. You wrap it around like this and you make sure that the ends map on top of each other without letting any overlap loose. And then you just get a marker and you colour in around here, and hey presto, you've got a square, like orthogonal cutting line around any piece of round stock you need to cut. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing you can do, of course, this is like version 2.0 of this hack, you can figure out exactly where the two ends meet, as it were, where the first end wraps around. And just put a little mark there, okay? And then hold the thing and fold it in half on that mark. And if all you want to do is drill a hole straight through a piece of round stock and all you've got is battery drill like this, don't be a mug and go all the way through with the drill, because you'll be off center and the hole won't go straight through and it'll look like a freaking bricklayer did it, right? Nobody wants that. So all you do is you put one mark where your overlap point is, and you put the other mark where the fold line is, and then you drill through on this side, and then you turn around, you drill through on the other side, and it looks properly precision. Certainly precision in the context of farm work, and you won't have to worry about the drill being not square as it goes through on any one of these off angles that you can literally go off on a tangent with. You'll be straight through on this side, and your other hole will be diametrically opposite, which is pretty fucking Jedi if you ask me. So what I'm doing here is using an automotive spot weld removal tool, which is a tiny little hole saw basically with a spring pointer in the middle of it. and I'm using that to breach the container. But don't rush out and buy one of those either, because you could just drive an old knife through the side of a bottle like this with a hammer, like it's made of cheese, dude. And then you just hack it in half, the whole thing. Hack it in half roughly with a pair of shears. These Sterling shears, dude, they are awesome. Even if you're a lefty like me and scissors have always been backwards. I've lived in a world with backwards scissors for 60-something years, and these are freaking awesome because they're sharp enough to use on things that require precision like paper, but they also cope effortlessly with jobs such as this. And if you've got one tool bag that you carry around everywhere just to do this job and that job, these kind of bridge the gap that you would normally need two tools to span, which saves you a bit of space and weight to carry around the place all the time. I think I got these from Bolt and Nut Australia. I'm not really sure about that, but if I can find the link, I'll put it in the description. They're not sponsoring me. This is freaking awesome. You need a pair of these. The top portion of the spout just comes off with a hacksaw. It's a bit like cutting cheese or butter or something. Kind of like debating a politician, really. It's that soft. And whatever you do, do not rush out and buy two of these matched precision cast iron V blocks that you see holding the bottle. Tight ass up, dude, and just screw a block of wood to the bench and use it as some kind of de facto bench hook. Once you've got the spout off and the body rough cut into two bits, just trim down to the line with the shears and give all the edges a nice little deburr so you don't have to reach for the band-aids in just a second. These tungsten carbide tipped rotating deburring tools are awesome, especially for getting into the inside edges and deburring anything round. They're fantastic at that. But whatever you do, don't rush out and buy one. If you're only going to use it once, nobody needs this. You can tight-ass this job easily with about this much 150 grit emery paper, because we're only fighting aluminium, and that's like being up against the French in World War II. Then all you need to do is press the parts together. Don't forget to invert the top bit. That's all you've got to remember. Now, I've got a hydraulic press, so I'm going to be using that if you don't mind. But again, don't rush out and spend the big bucks on one of them. Your bench vise will probably murder an assignment like that in a good way. Just remember to put a plate up on the cut end to distribute the load and make it easier to square the whole thing up. Piece of cake, dude. However, if your vise doesn't open quite wide enough to do that, the true Jedi tight-ass option here is the block of wood and the mallet. Is there any problem that won't solve? It'll probably start a bit skew-if, but that's nothing moderate mechanical sympathy and tight-ass tapping superpowers can't fix. You've got this. Then just knock the edges down so that nobody, but particularly you, cuts themselves, and then you're good to fill up, basically. I'm using Sutton Tools Venom here, which is such a cool name, but also a very effective product. It really just feels like thin oil, though. You just fill to the point where if you knock the container over, oil doesn't pour out. If you overfill it, you just tip the rest back into the bottle. It's pretty easy. This is as full as it gets right there. Access to a little bit of judicious lubricant in the home machine shop is a dead set asset. And this statement is true even if the home machine shop component of your shed is just one battery drill. The thing about battery drills, right, is that when you poke them at a dirty, thick piece of steel and ask them politely to plunge straight through, they're fighting a battle on two fronts. They've got to move the metal out of the way, sure, but they're also battling the parasitic loss of friction, like the parasitic loss of torque that is devoted to overcoming the friction aspect of the cutting job. And a little bit of lubrication, dude, takes a lot of that off the table and allows the limited power of the machine to devote more of itself to actually cutting the metal, which is exactly what you want. You'll also note that the battery will last longer and the tool will not heat up as much when you're doing it. And then when you step up to the full gamut of drill press, lathe, milling machine, horizontal bandsaw and tools of this nature, all the tools that are really good at wrapping you up and breaking all the bones in your hands and your wrist, when you're having fun with tools like that that are proper murder machines, they also benefit from lubrication. And one of the main benefits is that expensive cutting tools like annular cutters and end mills and things of this nature, they just last longer because they're not working as hard. The job they have to do is so much smoother. So you can feel really good about yourself doing this. There are objective reasons for producing something clever like this, but let's not forget that it's also pretty good for your mental health to just do something slick, and you can tight-ass the crap out of it and still have a win with this one, and you don't get to say that all that often. In fact, make as many of these as you want to, because if you know mates, relatives, whatever, with a similar mindset, they will think you are a dead set Jedi genius for coming up with this idea. And for Christ's sake, don't tell anyone that you didn't think of it yourself. Own it. Be the Jedi genius in your social set. Give these things away for Christmas. Everyone will think you're fantastic. Now, it probably takes about 20 minutes to make the first one, because you've got to drag out the tools and you'll have to rewire a few synapses. Obviously, you don't have to use a Nulon bottle. You can use pressure pack cans that are made of aluminium, like a lot of deodorant sprays and things of that nature come in aluminium cans. The tyre reinflation goop, that often comes in an aluminium can as well. So whatever you do, just source the container, make as many of these as you want, give them away. 20 minutes for the first one, but guaranteed once the synapses are reconfigured, subsequent ones with the tools actually on the bench, 5 minutes maximum. Get out there, lube up, dude. My work here is done. Thank you very much for watching.